Okay. All right, Mr. Chair.
We're set.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the pre-council meeting for May 20th, 2021. Jumping right into the agenda for Monday night's meeting. The assignment of the prayer this month will go to Cheryl Gibson. You should have all received the minutes. Please take a look at those before the meeting on Monday. Also, you should have received the budget report for January 1st through April 30th. And Mayor, if you could just give us an overview there.
Sure. So we are at a little more than 33% of the budget year completed, and we're performing better than budget. Our revenues are more than 37%, and our expenditures are around 24%. So we're good on both sides.
Right. Okay. That's good news.
That is good news.
Any questions from anyone on council concerning the budget? And I know you might not have had a chance to look at them yet, but okay. All right, moving forward, we have one resolution, and this is authorizing the mayor of the city of Lebanon to execute an agreement of easement between the city of Lebanon and the county of Lebanon, providing for a perpetual and permanent easement for the purposes of constructing and maintaining a recreational rail trail limited to the use by pedestrians, bicycles, and activities incidents to the operations of the John E. Wangert Memorial Park. And I think I'm going to take this resolution, and Mayor, if you could maybe fill us all in.
Yes. So if you don't mind, I'd like just to take a minute or two just to kind of talk about John E. Wangert and the process of the park's conception. So this land is located in the southwestern portion of the city. It's directly across from the former Lebanon Catholic. And the project was first conceived actually by the Lebanon Valley Conservancy, and it was to honor one of its founding members, which was John E. Wangert. John E. Wangert's father, Samuel Wangert, he founded the Wangert's Dairy, and John E. Wangert was employed there from 1961 to 1999, and he was the plant manager, and he was also the president. He was also a 1951 graduate of Lebanon High School. He played football, he played the trombone, and let me just try and let Donna back in here. And he was president of student council. He participated in several clubs with the Lebanon High School, and he was also president of his class. So he was an outstanding student and an athlete and a musician. So he was also the treasurer. He was the acting president of the Lebanon YMCA board. So he was also chairman of the United Way of Lebanon County. He was a board member for the Lebanon Valley Farmers Bank. That goes way back with that name. President of the Lebanon Rotary Club, president of the Pennsylvania Association of Milk Dealers, president of the Conservancy, and was also a Lebanon Valley Rail to Trail advisor. So he was very active in our community as a whole. He also participated in many fundraising organizations for our community and was just really an outstanding citizen, really, for our community. So because he was one of the, was very active in Lebanon Valley Conservancy, they just thought it would be a great way to honor him was with a park. So this piece of land actually consists of 3 different deeds, and part of it is owned by the County of Lebanon, which is really the old abandoned railroad bed, which would be an extension of the rail trail. And then, of course, the city-owned lands that kind of surround that. And then we also have the Quittapahilla channelization project that runs through this, and some other streams that come into the main portion of the Quitty. So it's very, and actually, what I'll do is I'll share my screen here. So if you see the blue part, this blue part here, can you see my little hand going across? Okay, so that's the main channel of the Quittapahilla Creek that continues in a westerly direction to North Cornwall Township, to 22nd Street and beyond. And this is a tributary that comes into it. And then there's actually a real little one that comes in from the north that's right, I think here, but it's not in blue. So what they're proposing to do, this would be phased out in several different phases, but they would like to put a trailhead here that would have 9 regular parking spaces and 2 handicap spaces. So you would come in off of Chestnut Street. This is Chestnut Street. And then over here would be the Lebanon Catholic. And I'm sorry that this is kind of faded and doesn't look like a very professional copy, but my plan was a big blueprint and I shrunk it down so that I could at least show you something. So you would park in here. And actually I think you actually come in off of a driveway and then go into the parking. You would enter the parking from this way. I think that's been changed since this plan was actually designed. And then you would walk a little trail here and catch the rail trail, which would wind through and then come up on the sidewalk at the end of our property, continue down. It would cross 16th Street, and then it would go into another type of park system in North Cornwall Township. 16th Street is the dividing line between the city and North Cornwall. So there would be another park in that area. And then it would go to 22nd Street, and there would be another sort of pedestrian bridge of some sorts there, and you would cross over at the traffic signal and end up going behind the mall and eventually into Union Canal Park and the rail trail that is a part of the Union Canal Park. So we're very excited for this phase, but it's probably has been one of the most difficult phases. We've been working on it for several years because originally we talked about crossing here over 422, but that's kind of dangerous. It's not a signalized intersection. And we just have been going and looking at several options. And then again, this park request came in and it just kind of made sense. Everything all is just fitting together. So the county and Lebanon Valley Rails to Trails is applying for this huge grant with DCNR. And so we need to get this, this kind of just was brought to our attention in the last couple of days. They have a June 8th deadline of submitting this easement agreement. We already have the memorandum of understanding for who will maintain the property and whatnot that we approved quite some time ago when we first started publicly talking about this. And this is just something that we said we would follow up with. So we just reviewed the agreement yesterday. There's some changes that we need to see. And what we need to include for our protection is we are required, of course, to maintain this concrete channel that contains the Quittapahilla Creek. So we need to have an easement, at least a 30-foot wide easement that follows this. So if we need to get in there and maintain it, we're able to do that. There's also, here it is. So there's also an access way that goes down to a ramp and a gate. And this is how we can actually get into the channel itself because it has high walls all the way around. And there's only a couple of these spots along the entire channel. And this is one of them. So we need to be able to have access to that. So we're going to have some type of an access easement, through the site that we will still be able to use that at any time, and they won't be able to make improvements in that area. And then also the authority has a sewer line that runs through the property. And we believe there's a 30-foot wide easement that follows that, but we just need to get it designated on the plan. It needs to be listed on the plan that the county and the rail trail are working on. So those 3 things are really the most important things for us to make sure that they happen. Again, this is just a conceptual plan. This is, and I think talked about this a little bit before, a traffic park where they want younger bicycle riders to learn the rules of the road in an urban setting. So it would really mimic like a real street system with signage and crosswalks and things like that. And then they could ride their bikes in there and practice riding in real life situations. They also talked about further, years down the road, possibly having some type of an amphitheater, some pavilions, and other things. A memorial garden to honor Mr. Wengert. And they talked about in the very beginning of this process, which I think was way back in 2014, about having, I call them moo cows, about having cows worked into different areas of the park to bring an educational aspect on milking or dairying operations. And I'm really hoping and I'm asking him to try and keep that in the plan, because I think that's really important for kids that live in an urban setting to have that education on, dairying operations, because milk is a huge important part of the food chain, our nutrition, and they should know about that. So I'm hoping that that's still going to happen. So again, this is kind of just a general concept of how it will be laid out and what our needs are and what we need to see in that easement agreement, which I don't think is going to be a problem. So it's just their attorney is finalizing those changes, and then we should have that, by Monday's meeting. So this document basically is giving authorization, and this is just like other resolutions that have done the same, and including the MOU that was a part of this project, that just authorizes me to execute the agreement of easement.
Mayor, I have a quick question, and I apologize. I don't remember if this was part of our discussion when we authorized the MOU, or is part of my discussion with the Conservancy. Am I correct in saying that the city will be responsible for mowing and leaf cleanup in this park? Is that correct?
So we would be responsible for mowing like the landscape
Promenade.
areas, I guess yeah.
Okay,
And
that's what I thought. I remembered.
It is specified or stipulated in the MOU, which I did have that lane right here, and I think I put it back in my file.
That's okay. I can pull it up. It's in I'm sure it's in my email.
I have it. Okay, so our obligations. We would do year-round trash pickup from the 3 cans. We would haul away debris from the United Way Day of Caring park cleanup. We would mow bi-weekly the promenade area during grass cutting season, which is generally defined as June through August. And then in September and October, we would do monthly leaf pickup. And then the rail trail, they would cut the native grasses and the meadow plants to 6 to 12 inches twice a year. They would mow along the rail trail, just like occurs now along the rail trail. They keep it well maintained. The rail trail would continue to do that. During winter months, they would make any type of repairs to the picnic tables, the trash receptacles, any other improvements that they construct there. And the Conservancy would help with the April or United Way Day of Caring park cleanup. They would do spring plantings of new trees and other plants and grasses. And again, they would also do maintenance in the winter months as well.
Thank you.
I'd like to bring out also that the maintenance that the rail trail does along the trail in the city, that's all done by volunteers. So the entire rail trail is maintained by volunteers. So
And Joe,
the city's going to be able to help with this pocket park with that maintenance.
and our chair is also one of those volunteers.
And the volunteers are really good as
Yeah,
well. Like if a tree falls, it's taken care of right away.
It absolutely is. We are very lucky to have that trail and have all the people that help maintain it. It's a huge asset to the city.
Yeah, I agree.
Couldn't agree more.
You know, to take a space like this that has been overgrown for
Well, here,
forever,
I'll show you.
you know, and turn it into a pocket park is going to be great.
So this was from 2017, but you can see it actually doesn't look too bad in this picture, but
I was gonna say, it looks
gonna
much
look-
worse walking by it.
yeah, it's gonna look even more beautiful.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really, this just is a little bit more detail with the trailhead. And remember how I said about it coming in this way? And then this would show the road that would go down to that ramp for us. And then this is actually coming from the existing rail trail. And this would be the rail trail itself. And like I said, it just kind of winds through until it gets to the end of our property. It would come up to the top of the sidewalk prior to 16th Street. Does anybody have any other questions?
Any questions from our guests, Mayor?
Oh, there's Dwayne. Chris Coyle has a question.
Go ahead, Chris.
Just had to do the unmute two-step here. So when all this is done and in place, who will own the real estate that ends up being the park?
So the city of Lebanon owns most of the park, with the county owning what would be the abandoned or former railroad bed.
Right?
And then we're giving an easement for all of the land, a permanent perpetual easement for all of the land, with the exception of the access and maintenance easements that we need to maintain the channel and to get down to the ramp at the channel.
Okay, so the city and the county would continue to be the record owners, and the rail trail folks, whatever the exact organization is, would be the beneficiary of the easement.
Yes, and I guess the rail trail, it would be in the county's name, and they must have a separate agreement with the rail trail then to,
Right. But in other words, the rail trail entity, whatever that is, would not be the owner of the park. It would be partly owned by the city, partly owned by the county, and the rail trail entity would have the right under the easement to put the park there and to put the rail trail through.
that's my understanding. Am I wrong on
Okay.
that, Donna? Okay, yes, that would be correct.
Okay, okay. And then this agreement has to be in place by June 8th because that is necessary to apply for this big DCNR grant. That's why we have to do it on Tuesday, correct?
Right. And
Okay,
I think they already applied for the grant, but their advisor told them that they
yeah,
have to have this in place by that date. I don't know if that's the date that they're going to make decisions
Right.
or,
It's
Yeah.
the documentation deadline.
yeah, it's a documentation
Conservancy
deadline. Okay. Mayor, could we at Levtown get a copy of the MOU? Can you send me a PDF of that?
the one that was already approved. Yeah,
Yeah, yes, please.
that was June 29th of 2020.
Okay. Is that available online somewhere?
Cheryl, is that available online?
No,
No, I'll just scan it to you after the meeting.
I appreciate that. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. And any other questions, Mayor, from our guests? I have one last question, Mayor. The Army Corps of Engineers, do they play into this at all with the dike or?
Well, they are involved with the channel, but only if, for inspections or if there's some type of damage during a flood event or something like that. But not to do this on the lands. As long as we protect our channel, we're fine, which is another reason why we need to get that easement so that we can make sure that we control what happens close to, because like we wouldn't want any trees that the roots grow, that would grow through our concrete channel, because that would be dangerous.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Chris has another question,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is a little off topic, real quick. So as the trail would proceed west, the rail trail through the park, it would obviously get to 16th Street and continue on into North Cornwall Township. Is that, and maybe this is, you're not the right group to ask it, is that going to be an at-grade crossing over 16th Street? Do we know?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Monday, we'll have two ordinances, both on introduction, and I'm actually going to read through both of these ordinances, and then we'll let the mayor kind of explain them because they're interrelated. So the first ordinance is amending subsection 1501.02, additions, deletions, and changes of Article 1501, International Fire Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, for the purposes of increasing the fee for an application for appeal. And this is on introduction, increasing fees from $250 to $600. And along with that, a second ordinance amending subsection 1901.02, additions, insertions, and changes of Article 1901, International Property Maintenance Code of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Lebanon, Pennsylvania, for the purposes of increasing the fee for an application for appeal. And again, this is on introduction, and this is increasing fees from $225 to $600. And Mayor, if you could kind of go over both of those ordinances.
So in updating the zoning ordinance, we spent a couple of years working on that. And one of the things that we did through that process was we increased the fee for the zoning hearing board. And what you need to do is you need to average the cost to the municipality. And you're not there to make money on a hearing. You also can't charge for every single expense. Like you can't charge for the zoning hearing board solicitor fee. You're allowed to charge for half of the stenographer fee. You're allowed to charge for like mailing costs and administrative time to do the mailing. And if any stipends are given to the board members and things like that. And of course, advertising, you're allowed to charge for that. You have to share like half of the cost that you're allowed to pass on to the petitioner or the appellant. So we, in 2019, calculated what our average cost for a zoning hearing board hearing was, and it was what we're allowed to incorporate into that. It was $627.63. So we had agreed to raise the rate to $600. It was, I think, $350. So we raised it to $600 as a part of the zoning hearing board update. So appeals to the fire code and appeals to the International Property Maintenance Code really don't happen that often. Zoning hearing board, you can typically have maybe one hearing a month or several a month. It's something that's pretty standard, but appeals, like I said, to the fire code and the IPMC are not typical. In fact, we haven't had any hearings since I've been mayor. Knock on wood. Well, we have one in-house right now. So that's what prompted us to say, hey, we need to take a look at what are our costs involved in those hearings as well. And unfortunately, for those types of cases, with a zoning hearing board case, like I said, you can have several hearings in 1 month's time. And what we do is we combine the advertisement for all of the hearings, and we just give a little summary for each hearing, but the preamble and the conclusion, like where the hearing will be held, what time, and all of the standard language that we have to have can kind of be shared in the cost of the ad. You can split it with however many hearings you have. So that helps to decrease the cost of the hearing. But with these appeals, the fire code and property maintenance code, like I said, we haven't had any hearings with the exception of the one that we're currently working on now since I've been mayor. So they happen very rarely. So all the advertisement costs are, so bottom line is we took a line at all in, took a look at all of the items that we're allowed to charge for and pass on to the applicant or the appellant. And it was $603.15. So it made sense to us. We hit that 600 threshold to just make it $600, just like the zoning hearing board fee is for a typical variance. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Who would like to take the first ordinance?
I'll take it.
All right, Chris, thank you. And the
Sure.
second one?
I'll take second.
Okay, Wayne, thank you. And council, do you have any questions on these, either of these two ordinances?
I just have a question of confirmation. It's my understanding, the way this was explained, Mayor, that today with the current fee, the city is losing money by jumping through these hoops. So this is correcting that. Is that
Yes,
inaccurate? Okay.
we're
Thank
still
you.
losing money because we're not allowed to pass on the cost of the solicitor for the board.
Of course.
And that can range in fees, but this is to help recoup some of the cost.
Okay. All right. Well,
And Mayor, that's probably the original amount, or you don't know how
Oh,
long. it's been-
Yes, I did look that up, or Cheryl looked that up for me. So the fire code, that was increased from $100, which was established in 1984, to $225 in June of 2004. And then it increased to $250 in 2010. So it hasn't been increased since 2010. And then the property maintenance code, it was $225 since at least May of 1995.
Okay.
do we have any idea how that compares to other third-class cities?
I can tell you for the zoning hearing board, we did do a comparison and we were like right in line. There were some that were higher, some that may have been a little bit lower, but for the most part, we were right in line.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And any other questions from council?
I do have something that I'd like to share then before you.
Okay. Mayor?
Okay, so let me just share my screen. Oops, not that one. Let me try this again. Can you see the Facebook page?
I can.
You can see the Facebook page. Okay. So last month at our council meeting, we did have a visitor, Jay Green, who had talked about a concern he had with motor-driven vehicles on city streets. And we had talked about, yes, we acknowledge that there's been an increase just like there has been in other cities. And we thought that possibly what we could do, we don't know if it will help, but at least we're trying to do something, that we would try and educate people on the different types of motor-driven vehicles, including ATVs, motorized bicycles and cycles, and like what the different types of motor-driven vehicles are. Which ones are required to, that you need a driver's license to operate on the street, which ones you're required to title, register, or obtain insurance on, whether you need to wear a helmet or not wear a helmet or eye protection. None of these listed here, as you can see, are permitted on the Lebanon Valley Rail Trail. None of them. They do not allow any type of motorized bicycle or vehicle to be on the rail trail because a lot of people walk or run and it can be quite dangerous. So they do not allow them. Also, ATVs, the top one here, that is not allowed on any city street or alleyway at all. And I know that there are a lot of them running around, but they are not permitted to be on city streets or alleyways. Again, the list here of the mopeds, pedicles with electric assist, motor-driven cycles, motorcycles. You can read through it. Again, this is posted on Facebook. Again, which ones you would need to have a driver's license. All of these vehicles, though, that are allowed to be on city streets and alleyways, you are required to follow the motor vehicle code, which means which side of the road you're allowed to be on or must be on. You need to stop at stop signs. You need to stop and follow, the other motor vehicle code rules, traffic signals, turn signals, or hand signals. All of those things are required to be followed. You're not allowed to just cruise through a red the red light at the traffic signal. So we're hoping that we can educate people. We talked last month about how it's dangerous to try and chase one of these down. However, we have asked our residents that we know they're just as concerned as we are about, the rider's safety, general public safety. We've asked them, we will accept anonymous tips on where the nest is, where the home of the vehicle is. And if they can, some of the information that we would like to have that would help us would be, what type of bike is it? What color is it? Can you identify the operator? Was it a man? Was it a woman? Was it a kid? Which way were they traveling? And where did they go back to? So that we can go there and, excuse me, follow up with them on educating them on these items.
I don't believe the guy I see is going anywhere. I think he's just driving around just to do it. He doesn't have a light on his motor sounds louder than a lawnmower. So I understand what Jay's saying. I mean, or Mr. Green. It's, and he's passing cars too, which with no lights on, he's probably going to get hit at some point.
Mayor, I will say that I have to thank you and your staff for turning that around so quickly to get that out. I know what we were sent out from the state was extremely confusing, and the product that you put out there really, I think, kind of simplified it. So
I told Janelle what I wanted.
I agree, Janelle. That was a great job. I shared
Yeah.
that on
Thank
the
you.
page.
No, thank you. And it definitely looks like it got some good traction as well from a sharing standpoint. So much needed.
Absolutely.
And the chief has some other things up his sleeve. So hopefully, we'll do our best again to try and get the word out and educate. And we have, I don't know, Chief, if you want to talk a little bit about what we have done, even just this past week, some of the things that we were able to. And it's not that we want to do this, but, for everyone's safety, something needs to be done. It's a little out of control.
Actually, just yesterday, we had an incident at Fifth End, the railroad area, and we were able to capture 3 bikes being operated. One we were able to seize and tow for lack of ownership proof, and there were 6 citations that were issued to 2 of the operators of the bikes. So other officers have actually used this same what the mayor just had posted. I pushed that out in an email to all the officers, and just learned today that one of the officers actually utilized that document in an interaction with some young men on these bikes to explain what they need to do and how they need to do it. So we're really trying not just to issue citations, but to outreach and educate in hopes that they become, compliant or come into compliance. I don't know how good I'll be on the news, but I just did a news thing today as well for ABC 27. I think that'll be on tonight. And I think there's 3 things that we're really trying to push, and I made mention of this to the young man that did the news spot today. And I think they are probably the 3 most important, which is we need the bikes to be registered properly. The operators need to be licensed properly, and they have to obey traffic laws, no matter if there has to be licensed or if they have to be licensed as an operator. So I think they're the 3 biggest takeaways, and I think that's what we all need to continue to push.
Chief, I have a quick question. Is there any way, and I understand that I guess data collection is a big piece of it, but is there any way the city could develop a system that people could register their bikes on the city's website instead of actually having to come to the police station to do that?
Well, we currently either stamp or put a decal on the bike.
Okay.
So we would have to then mail them a decal. I'm sure payment transaction can be done online, as everything is, moves that direction. But the only holdup would be actually seeing the bike in person, having some proof of ownership in person, and then either placing the sticker and or stamping the frame.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. I know, I mean, I guess I look at it from the angle of if that's something that we want people to do, especially for folks that are gainfully employed and have a family to take care of. I mean, the easier we can make it for them to do the things that we want them to do.
Sure. But also, Councilman, you just have to understand that that's for bicycles. These motorized type bikes don't need to be registered in that fashion.
Of course.
Mr. Chair, Chris Coyle has another question.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
It's a question for Chief Briner. Can you just tell me real quickly what criteria your officers use to decide whether they can seize and tow one of these outlaw bikes? That's what I'll call them.
Right. So again, not all are outlaw bikes. There is a difference. There's some bikes that are enduro. I'll call them an enduro bike. That's what I, know them as. And that is a bike that looks like a dirt bike. However, it is fashioned for on and off road, and it can be licensed. But it meets all the requirements to be inspected. Typically, the biggest reason why we'll seize a bike is if the owner or the person operating at that moment cannot show any proof of ownership.
Yeah.
If you cannot show any proof of ownership, we will then seize it so you can show proof of ownership. Because at that point, we don't know if it's stolen or if it hasn't been reported stolen at that time, and we have to seek out that information.
Right. Yep. That's fine. Thanks a lot.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a question or a concern I'd like to address with the chief. There is a motorcycle rider going up Cumberland Street multiple times a day and totally, he's on a crotch rocket, and I swear sometimes he is going up past on the 700 block of Cumberland Street. I see it all the time, multiple times during the day at like incredible speeds. And I don't know if anybody has complained about this, but my concern is that this guy is going to get into some kind of an altercation or a dangerous situation with a pedestrian or a vehicle. Have you had any complaints about the speed on Cumberland Street?
Yes, but not specifically to what you're mentioning. Not one specific bike at any one specific time by one specific rider.
Okay. Yeah, this is a specific rider. I see him all the time. And sometimes it's every 10, 15 minutes, all day long. I kid you not.
Yeah, I don't have any of that.
Okay. I was just curious if anyone else noticed this, but I can't help but notice it because I can hear him coming like 2 blocks away, and he comes screaming up through, and it's a safety concern as far as I'm concerned.
Is there a specific time that you religiously see him there?
Oh, 9:30 through 4:30. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's always the same motorcycle?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Any
just,
other questions from council?
thank you.
Any other questions from council? And from our guests, Mayor?
No.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I do have something I'd like to ask Janelle.
Absolutely.
About I remember one of our meetings, I can't remember if it was the last one or the one previous, maybe in March, where we were talking about the extra money that was available. These the PPP and CARES money, if there was anything left in that fund.
Yes, we still do have some remaining money. We have a couple applications. Well, we've sent out a couple applications to a few more businesses, which if they submit, we may fill it up. But I don't think at this point that we would open it up to previous applicants, just because there is a minimum amount that's remaining. that would be something that the mayor would have to decide on. But there is some remaining. There just isn't a ton remaining at this point.
Yeah, I was approached by the Lebanon County Historical Society. They asked me at a board meeting last night about the money, if there was anything available, and I said I would check. So
Are-
thank
Are they a nonprofit or are they like do they file as a nonprofit? Because if so, they wouldn't qualify.
Okay.
But if they aren't, please give them my information and I'll get them the application and all the information that they would need to fill out.
I will do that, Janelle. Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? All right. Hearing none, I guess we will see everyone on Monday, May 24th at 6:30 p.m. And this will be our last Zoom meeting on Monday. We will be going back to in-person council meetings in June. So we'll talk more about that. I know, I believe everyone's excited for that, and I know I'm looking forward to it. So with that, wish everyone a great evening, and we'll see you on Monday. Good night.
Have a great evening, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone.
Yeah.
Take care.